thank you for tuning into another episode of the most entertaining podcast of all time. And thank you to all my fans, supporters, and listeners around the world. Whether you're from a small town in Utah, to Los Angeles, to Sweden, to Finland, to Russia, thank you. Because with your support, we have become one of the most top-rated podcasts on Spotify in 2021. So thank you all for all your contribution and listening to this podcast. And I also got to mention one thing, just one thing. If you want to donate or contribute to this podcast, you can go to anchor.fm/The Prince of Fresh Air, which is in the links, and it's my main platform. And you can go to listener support, and you could donate anywhere from 50 cents to 10 grand. I'm not judging. But thank you guys for an amazing year. 2 years into this, and it's all because of you. So thank you, and let's get right back to the action, shall we? Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to. I said welcome to. Come on, you're supposed to say it along with me. I got to do it by myself now. I said welcome to the Prince of Fresh Air. This is your host, the most charismatic man in entertainment. This is the podcast where we do it big and we do it better. So this is a bonus episode for all my supporters and fans and listeners around the world as a thank you. And I hope you guys enjoy. And I'm not going to keep you waiting. So, this is the podcast where we talk about highly controversial topics, highly talked about issues. And this one, I'm sure is going to be very divisive with amongst a lot of people, especially right now, what's going on in the media. So, me and you talked about this a little bit off camera, just a little while ago. So there's been a recent blow up in the media regarding women's sports. And the reason why women's sports is being talked about is because there's a athlete, a transgender athlete named Lia Thomas. You don't know who she is, right?
I'm actually Googling this dude right now.
Yeah, so just a little background. So Lia Thomas is a 22-year-old transgender athlete. Now, she was born Will Thomas, and Will Thomas, he was a swimmer, and in 2019 he placed 462nd place in the men's division. And then he began transitioning to a woman. And then 2021, let me be a little respectful. She decided to compete in women's swimming competitions and has been dominating like no one has ever done before. And this sparked a recent discussion about transgender athletes in sports, because you're seeing athletes like Lia Thomas and others amongst women in other sports just absolutely destroying women's sports. So let me get your take on this, man, because there's so much we got to talk about. What do you think about transgender athletes in sports, especially for women?
I'm just going to be as unfiltered as I can.
That's how we do it over here.
But the thing is, I wouldn't even call it unfiltered. I'm just going to be honest because it's the truth. Truth of the matter is, this is not a transgender person. Okay, this is a guy. This is a man that we're talking about right now. All right, so I'm just gonna call it like I see it, and clearly I'm not the only one that feels that way, because as I was skimming through Google to see who this guy is, I've seen that he beat another swimmer named Emma from wherever, and the fans, the spectators who are watching, booed him because they know it's not fair.
But you know why people boo them? It's because the girl you just mentioned who came in second place, she's not just no ordinary Division One swimmer. This is a Olympic swimmer who was on the U.S. Women's Olympic team last year. So this goes to show to you, this isn't just transphobia, as people like to call it. There's some obvious things going on here, because if this girl Lia Thomas can come in and overtake an Olympic swimmer, I mean,
something's not right.
Exactly. But go ahead, I'll let you continue.
So, I just saw an article that says Twitter explodes over trans swimmer Lia Thomas, Liam Thomas, that's probably his real name, a winning national title, a slap in the face to women and girls. And that's a fact. Like, I mean, come on, bro. Like you somehow, just decided you wanted to be, a girl in 2019. I don't even know how old, this dude is. And then you want to just start competing in a whole nother, in the women's division because you can compete with the guys where you came from. Like, this is just deliberate. This is a guy who was a loser, when in competition with men. So he wanted to know what it felt like to win. And the only way he could actually win is doing it with the girls. I mean, let's just call it like it is. Let's just call it like it is. I'm calling a spade a spade.
Right. And I've been doing my due diligence on this because I wanted to come a little prepared, even though I already had my preconceived ideas. I'm not going to lie to that. But one of the points that someone made, and this is a former women's Olympic athlete, she talked about, this is the issue too. So Lia Thomas, or, I forgot what his first name was, Tom or Willis, whatever. They talked about how he spent 21 years of his life as a man. And then within a year of transitioning, she has become a woman and then became a national champion, like the all-American Division One athlete in women's sports. And they're just supposed to roll over and accept it. And one of the points people are making is that it's not fair that a lot of these girls can't speak about it, because now they're jeopardizing their future with scholarships and the NCAAs. Right. And it's not right. And so one of the girls from Virginia Tech, who didn't compete in the 500 meter swimming race that Lia Thompson ended up winning, she talked about how her roommate, who was the morning of the meet, there was 16 spots, and she would have qualified for the 16th spot, but then Lia Thompson came along and took the number 1 spot, so she ended up getting bumped out of it. And the sad part is, it wasn't the fact that she just lost out of competing in the NCAAs. It's the fact that this was her senior year, and she would have never get a chance to compete in the NCAAs again. And she didn't lose out to a better female. She lost to a trans athlete named Lia Thompson. And the point is this is not transphobia that we're talking about. We're not talking about her right as a trans woman. It's the fact that, like Michael Phelps came out and said, it's about equal treatment, equal opportunity. How's it equal that, a 5'6" woman is competing with a 6'2" athlete who's obviously still a man, because one of some of the women have came out who shared the locker room with Lia Thompson, talking about how they feel uncomfortable around her because, well, he still got his male genitalia. So one, that's awkward for them. Two, obviously, if you looked at I don't know if you ever seen the image of the podium when after last night's race, you could see the size difference. This is like Michael Phelps standing next to Nate Robinson. I mean, right. It's not fair. And a lot of people, like you said, they want to say, oh, it's transphobic. No, it's not right. Because imagine that was your daughter who spent 20 years of her life for this moment. And let's be honest, this guy, because it's only been a year, this not, a transition of 7-8 years. This guy, after 1 year, came in and just absolutely crushed dreams. Like, there's no way anybody's beating her. No way. There's no way. What do you think about that?
I think we should start calling him. One. Two, I mean, really, like I said, it's just a guy who's just trying to take advantage of, this new era that we're living in, where you can get away with things like that. Like, there's outrage, but now we're just living in a time where, and like I said, I don't have any problem with, people being who they feel that they are. But at the end of the day, I just think that there should be a division for them. You see what I'm saying? Like, you should have a men's division, yet you should have a women's division, and then have a trans division. You know what I'm saying? Where there's no physical advantages, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way, for it to balance out, because that's like if, all of a sudden I just tell people that, I identify as a 13-year-old kid, and then I just get put in freaking, 13-year-old kid, basketball games. And then of course I'm going to dominate because I'm 6'4" amongst a whole bunch of, average, like short little guys. It's the same situation.
Right.
And that's the only reason why. It's because the system is now being designed, on a grand scale for them to benefit off of these things. And then it's like, you can have your complaints, but nothing's going to be done, because eventually the United States of America, the national flag is going to be red, white, is going to go from red, white, and blue to a rainbow. Eventually, it might as well be like that now. This is going to become the United States of LGBTQ, the way things are going. And if not, prove us wrong. Get this guy out of the women's division. Get him out of there. Because that's right. Like, you have a guy, that's like taking a male boxer who freaking has no name for himself in men's boxing. Obviously, he's nothing but a loser in men's boxing. Then all of a sudden he wakes up one day and says, you know what? I want to be a girl. And then you put him in women's boxing, and then all of a sudden he's starting to knock girls out. Is that fair?
Exactly.
Oh, I guess people are not going to think it's different because it's combat. It's the same thing.
And that's the point a lot of people are making, because that's the exact point you made. And I made this point earlier. So before the transition, he was placing, like I said, 462nd place in men's swimming. Now, all of a sudden, a year and a half later, breaking records in women's sports. I mean, just absolutely dominating women's sports and records. And you just see the difference. He couldn't cut it in the men's league, but then as a transgender athlete, it's just absolutely demolishing women. And it's at the point now where a lot of former Olympians, former Division One athletes, former NCAA American athletes are coming out saying, this is not fair, because a lot of these girls work hard. And like I said, the girl who came in second place, Emma, that's an Olympic silver medalist, Olympic silver gold medalist. I would just say gold, but Olympic silver medalist. And even she had no chance. That goes to show you there's a problem here. It's not right. I won't even use LeBron, because obviously LeBron, he's the 1% in the NBA league. But let's take the average NBA star. Let's say we took Lamar Odom, right? When he was playing. Let's say, because Lamar Odom wasn't one of the greatest of all time. Let's just put it like that. So I'll use him as an example. So let's say he was like, you know what? I can't do this no more. I'm not scoring as much. I'm not winning gold medals and stuff. I feel like a woman now. And then a year later, after going to the WNBA, he starts winning rings like donuts. Like, this dude is just demolishing, dunking on women, just absolutely crushing every record in the book. How is that fair? I mean, it's a biological difference. And this is the point that people are talking about. This is a difference. If you look at a picture of Lia Thomas, this isn't the average male. This is a tall, muscular, lean male right here. He's about the same height as me. Yes, a little slimmer, but you could see the obvious difference between him and the Olympic silver medalist and Emma. It's a complete height and size difference.
Right.
Like, you got Michael Phelps and Simone Biles. That's what their physiques look like. Of course, he's gonna be winning, because there's no chance. And like, this is the part that, and Lia Thompson, let me mention this. Lia Thompson is just a breaking point. And I think this is why a lot of people are starting to talk about it. And it's unfortunate that a lot of female athletes can't speak about it is because they feel like they'll be rejected from future scholarships, competing in the NCAA tournament in the future. But you know, it's at a point where you got this is transgender athlete in weightlifting and women's weightlifting. I forgot her name, but ever since she came on the scene, I'll be a little respectful. After she came on the scene, every woman record has been destroyed. Nobody's winning.
You know why? Because it was a he. It was a
Exactly.
he. It was a he. It's like we men physically have the advantage, are superior to women physically. So if you put, a male bodybuilder up against a female bodybuilder, just the male is just going to have the advantage, right? We produce more testosterone. If you put a male boxer in the ring with a female boxer, who gonna win? The male boxer. If you put the Lakers up against the freaking Sparks or whatever they call themselves now, who gonna win? Like, it's just what it is. So that's like, honestly, Lia Thomas winning anything in the sport of swimming is not a real victory. It's not a real victory. And deep down on the inside, it's a Pyrrhic victory for this dude, because deep down inside, he knows up against people with similar, physical attributes to him, he wouldn't, there would be nothing close. I actually, while you were speaking, I watched, like, I guess it was like a 500-yard freestyle swim and that he won. And as he's swimming, like, he's already like halfway, like, all right, so he's swimming down. All the girls are way behind him. And it's like, by the time he's on his way back up, the girls are just getting to the other side. What do you call that? That's not fair. It's not fair. But like I said, this is the time, this is the era that we're living in now. This is what we're living in now. And they're like, you know what? And they're like, you know what? We don't care what you feel about it. Things are just going to be done anyway, because this is just the new standard. Do not be surprised if one day the U.S. flag changes to a rainbow with stars on it. Don't be surprised.
So let me read off a little bit of Lia Thompson accomplishments ever since she became the first openly transgender NCAA women's champion. All right, let me read off some of these victories that he has won. All right, so like I said, in 2019, when he was still a man, he was ranking out of 10th place. This dude, like I said, was ranked in the 460 percentile in men's competition. Now, all of a sudden, in the NCAA season, she has broken the season's best times in the 200-yard and 500-yard freestyle races. And Ivy League Women's Championships last month, she won 100-yard, 200-yard, and 500-yard freestyle races. And one of the criticisms, especially about the 500 meter competition that they had on last night, was the fact that, so the Olympic swimmer Emma, who came in second, now she was winning, or I should say she was neck and neck with Lia Thompson, right? And then about a third of the way to the finish line, this is where, like I said, because if you think about it, men have a higher lung capacity, higher muscle capacity, and everything. Lia Thompson started pulling away from her. And at that point, by the time Lia Thompson touched the wall, she was about, I would say, 50 to 100 feet away from her. So she got destroyed. And this is the exact point that people are making. It's not the fact that it's a neck and neck competition. It's not the fact that, it's just a luck of the draw. Ever since she came over or crossed over, it's just been total domination. It's just not right. And like you said, this is where sports be coming from. And I'm glad a lot of women athletes and men athletes of all different championship levels are coming out talking about it, because, like I said, imagine that was your daughter You seen her since she was 5 years old, training every day in the swimming pool. She was doing what she wanted to love, and she was aiming for the NCAA championship. She wanted to be All American. She wanted to be, the next Olympic swimmer. And all of a sudden, she gets to the championship level, and she's staring down the barrel. And then there's this 6'3", tall man, because let's call it like it is, tall man that's
Yep.
at the door knocking, waiting for her. And as soon as she see him, she realizes it's game over. And sure enough, she couldn't do, even on her best day, couldn't do enough to put a dent in his record. So, like I said, man, this is it's unfortunate, and you know, a lot of the female athletes, like I said, they've spoken briefly to the media, not too much about Leah, but the fact that they risk backlash at speaking, because now they feel like if they speak out against her, oh, it's transphobic or it's homophobia, and yeah, just being discriminatory against her.
You're right.
It's like that's not the issue here. It's about equality. Now, let me ask you, bro. Because this former tennis player, I don't know her name because she's from another country, so I'm not even gonna attempt to say it. But she came out and said, you know what? This is about the time where the NCAA's need to step in and make some better rules, because now that we've seen what's happening with trans athletes in women's sports, because before I even ask you, the reason why we talk about women's sports often is because you rarely see a trans male who's a woman who transitioned over to male ever dominating men's sports. You just rarely ever see it. But what do you think is the solution? Because her solution is you have three categories. You have men's, women's, and opens. So the open category could be for men or women who wants to compete against each other, and for the transgender athletes. I think that's one good solution. Or they can just have a trans category.
Like I said earlier.
What do you think? I forgot what you said earlier. My bad.
No, I said that they need to separate it so it balances out. You have men's, you have women's, and then you have trans. So there's no complaints. That eliminates the necessity for any complaining, because now everything is balanced. There's balance. This whole situation is literally imbalance. That's all it is.
And this is, for me, this is a part of the agenda. And the agenda is to silence the doubters and to silence the critics. Because I have nothing against ESPN, but watching ESPN interview Lia Thompson, and this is a woman I'm talking about, interviewing Lia Thompson, all giddily and proud. This conversation isn't about humanity. This is not about Lia Thompson's right as a transgender woman. This is a fact about trans athletes taking away the spotlight from many women who's worked hard in their life for the opportunity that they deserve. And the problem I start growing frustrated with is this whole transphobia thing. Why everything has to be transphobic? We're not talking about race. We're not talking about the color of somebody's skin. We're talking about equality for women. And isn't it ironic the same people who talk about equality for women are the same ones that's telling women to shut up when they talk about this? It's not ironic, but
they only want to talk about equality for women, when it's convenient for them, or they're trying to piggyback off of someone else's movement. That's like when people talk about Black Lives Matter. But when you go on the Black Lives Matter website, I don't know if it's still like that now because I haven't been there in about a year. But the last time, I went on there, it said that, Black Lives Matter is a movement that pretty much protects trans folk, gay folk, and they only mention Black women, men, and children, and elderly dead last. And I think they didn't even mention Black men. So how was it a movement for Black people when yet you're only mentioning specific people? So this is what I'm saying. And you only have a situation where they're trying to silence any opinions that aren't in their favor. is because they're making it so that way they're normalizing these things. So they don't want anybody to talk about it, and they'll discourage any sort of contrary opinion because they want it to be, it's to where like now it's like the new thing. You remember back in the day where like in movies, interracial dating was like a taboo thing, even to like, you know, the depiction of gay people was like, oh my gosh, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And then even when they used to do it back in the day, they were very careful as to how they did it. But now it's like you go on Netflix and then you see them everywhere. And that's cool, you know, for them to be represented if it's, you know, necessary to the story, like versus like them just doing certain things just for the sake of doing them. In this case scenario, you know, Liam Thomas getting all this media coverage is not by mistake. They're just doing it so people can get used to it. They're like, shut up, get used to it. Get used to seeing these things because it's going to be more, you know what I'm saying? More and more of a thing.
Right. And you know, it's funny. I was just reading Caitlyn Jenner just came out talked about, and everybody has opinions about Caitlyn. I could care less about
Bruce.
But yeah, you know, but even she came out and said, you know what? Lia Thompson competing in the NCAA championships is not right and it's not fair. And she blames the NCAA committee for taking it easy. And like you said, it's the problem we living in. Everything has become. I've mentioned this on a previous podcast before. The amount of rights that the LGBTQ community has nowadays, it's just it's incredible, right? Because anytime we question anything, you get slammed, you get called homophobe or transphobe, but now you actually have someone who the media loves in Caitlyn Jenner speaking against the same athlete that we're talking about. So you can't call her transphobic, right? So, but again, this is just like I said, this is just the tip of the talking point, because I remember last year or 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, there was a transgender boxer who actually competed in women's sports and was just putting girls in the hospital, right? At what point does this become fair? And this is why I say there should be three categories, because we're talking about physical sports. We're not talking about chess. We're not talking about a mental game here. We're talking about physical sports. Why are transgender females allowed to compete with women in boxing and mixed martial arts? Just anything physical needs to be equal. It's not equal. I don't care how you slice it. I don't care how fair and equal you want to be. It is not right that a 5'6" girl is competing against a 6'3" obvious male who still has male genitalia. Come on, this is. I'm not. A lot of people saying she's a scam, she's a fraud. I'm not going as far as to say that, even though I might feel that way. But again, it's the equality in women's sports, and like I said, how are we going to live in a society who talk about women's rights and be equal and fair to women, and yet trying to change the rules now? I don't know, man. This conversation, like I said, this is not just about Lia Thompson, even though she is the most talked about, or like Sports Illustrated said, the most controversial athlete during this time. But this conversation needs to happen, and it's not right that fellow women competitors aren't allowed to speak about the issues because they're going to be labeled a transphobe, and they're not going to be able to compete next year
because they're protected citizens. They are damn near second to white people in this country. There's like a certain stock, like the tables turn, because again, like gays used to be bottom of the barrel, like pariahs of society, viewed as sinful, immoral, unsanitary, disease, HIV carrying people. And then now it's just, the complete polar opposite. And like I said, everything needs to be fair. If people have a point, they need to be heard, regardless if whether or not you agree. A valid point is a valid point. It's the same thing, when it comes to, when I talk about, Black issues, and then I have, white people telling me, oh, you're a race baiter. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's really like that on all sides, but we don't ever get anything, that we ask for, but they do, you know what I'm saying? They do. You feel me? So like I said, but this is just the standard. I don't see them taking any accolades away from this guy. I don't see them making any adjustments because they went through so much to make it so that way people can do these things and nothing will happen. So not only is he, gay, but he's white. So it's literally like nothing is going to happen. I think people are going to talk about it, but I don't see them ultimately giving this guy the boot. I think that it's ultimately going to come down to the women that compete with this guy have to just accept the fact that he's just got the cheat codes. Like literally, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're playing against somebody who already has like infinite stamina, infinite this, all the stats like to 99 compared to you. Because I literally just saw that picture where you had him standing at first place, and then you had the three girls, the runner-ups together at third. No one standing next to him. They were completely on the polar opposite. So what does that say? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where like the competitors, they just have to say, you know what? Well, if I come in second, I win because this guy is just a walking cheat code.
Right. So. And I don't blame her necessarily. Well, yeah, him, her, it don't really matter to me. But I don't blame him too often. Why? Because the NCAAs allow it. And why they allow it? Because we live in what is it? The political climate of, we have to be diverse and equality and inclusive,
ultra liberal.
At what expense? Like I said, this is not an audition for a casting call here. We're talking about people's dreams and livelihoods here. And don't get me wrong, yes, audition, same thing for us. But this is certain physicality that comes with sports that you can't duplicate anywhere else. So, like I said, if I had a daughter who was 21 years old, who's been, for the last 15 years of her life, has been dedicating her life to swimming, and then the one moment that she gets to compete at the highest levels, she gets stomped out by a man, I'm going to be furious. And there's nothing you could tell me about it because, you got to be more inclusive. Don't be transphobic. No. Get out of here with that because, like I said, this is not equal. And a lot of people say, oh, what if Lia Thomas was your daughter? No.
Wouldn't happen.
Still not right. It's only been, like I said, this is not a transition. This is not Dwayne Wade's son who's been transitioning since the age of 10. We're talking about a 21-year-old swimmer who was a man for all his life, and then a year later, in 1 year decides he wants to become a woman, and then just starts destroying records. I mean, that's not transphobic. I don't care what people say. It's not transphobic. The reality of the situation is he saw opportunity. I'm not saying whether he feels like a transgender now, I don't know, but he saw opportunity. He took it. And now women, especially college students, because these are college students we're talking about, going home crying to their parents, realizing that their dreams of competing at the Olympics or, Team USA is shattered because this one obstacle that they can't move is standing right in front of them and won't let them get through because the NCAAs won't step up and say, no, this is not right. Let's take her out and give her their own platform. No, you're going to just have to suffer. It's
because NCAA is in cahoots. That's all it is, man. They're in cahoots.
And let me ask you. So some people who's been speaking out about it, a lot of celebrities, a lot of famous sports athletes are saying that one thing that women who are competing in the NCAAs and these championships, one thing they should consider doing is just when they see her name pop up on the billboard, don't compete at all. Don't swim at all. What do you think about that?
That's another thing. That's what I said. I was like, yo, like anytime you're competing against, this dude, you just gotta freaking, hey, just don't even acknowledge him because it don't count. To me, I'd be like, yo, if I had a girl and then she was competing, against dude, I was like, he don't count. If you come in second, you won. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not there because it just don't count. So right. People saying that like they shouldn't compete. I mean, that's one thing. I think ultimately it's just an exercise in futility because I don't see them changing these policies because in order to do that, if they do that, then it's like, the shitstorm that is going to, come upon them. They don't want to deal with that. So they're not going to do it.
Yeah, man.
Because the powers that be are those sorts of people.
right? And like I said, man, one of the members of her team at the University of Pennsylvania was talking about. She did an interview with with someone, and she talked about how Lia Thompson makes the women's locker room uneasy. Like his genitalia be exposed. He be talking about how he still loves women and want to date women.
Oh,
And
see,
like
Liam Thomas. Like I said, Liam Thomas confirmed. Liam
Will
Thomas confirmed.
Will Thomas.
Yeah, confirmed. All confirmed. So if he's literally all up in the girls' locker room saying all that, that's predatory. That's a whole nother discussion in and itself. Because I thought he was all up in there, just whatever it is that girls talk about, whatever the girls do in girls' locker rooms. But if he's in there, checking out the girls and all that type of stuff, no wonder they're gonna feel uneasy. So then he really shouldn't be allowed in there, because then he's pretending that he's literally the modern day white version of Juwanna Man, literally.
You know what? Ben Shapiro actually did a piece about that. He said this is Juwanna Man in real life. If you think about it, it really is. And like, it's mind blowing how people like someone posted a clip of South Park from years ago who did the exact same episode about the exact same thing that's happening right now. And it's just mind blowing to think all this stuff is actually coming to fruition. Like, it's mind blowing. And for anybody who want to read the article about the female member of the team, she did it with Daily Mail. But like I said, this dude is literally in a women's locker room, balls hanging out. You know what I'm saying? Just talking about I still want to date women. I found women very attractive. Like, imagine if one of these girls went home, told their father or brother, and then they took the law. I'm not advocating anybody become Batman, but what if one of them decide they want to go confront Lia, right? It's you putting women in an unsafe environment. And like I said, we can't. How are we gonna live in society who try to upraise and uproot, not uproot, but praise women and uplift them and tell them you're just equal? But when it comes to Lia Thomas, you just gotta deal with it. If she want to break out records, y'all gonna have to deal with it. If she want to take all the scholarships, y'all gotta deal with it. If she wants all the media coverage, y'all gonna have to deal with it. Like,
right.
What kind of? Come on, like, give me a break here. It's I don't know, man. Like, this is a very divisive topic, and a lot of people have opinions and stuff like this about it. But this is just another chapter. I'm sure she ain't gonna be the last one, but she's definitely the first one to be breaking headlines, breaking records, and breaking stories.
Yep.
You got any final thoughts, man?
My final thoughts is for listeners to just think critically about the things that are going on in this country. The reason why they're continuing to happen at the rate that they're happening is because of the absence of critical thought amongst the masses. And at that is my time.
And like you said, man, I agree with everything you said. Everybody, do your research before you make opinions. Have discussions. Look at it from both sides. Yes, this Lia Thomas side and the transgender LGBT community, but look at all these young women whose parents paid, put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into practice, and did all this hard work for them to compete at the highest levels, and then you have this obstacle here. So, that's it for me, man. It was a great conversation. We always do controversy, and I think we did this one justice. And like I always say, a helping hand is a better hand. Thank you, Dimitri.
Yep. Peace.